Tracy Maddox. I'd like to introduce each of our candidates, challengers and incumbents. I'll mix it up. Dr. Julia Houston is going to be with us shortly. She's coming back from a class, so she will be a little late this evening. But we have Mr. Larry Wiesner, Democrat. Miss Alma Lewis, Democrat. Mr. Brad Hayes, Republican. Mr. Sammy Ballard, Republican. And Mr. Eddie Massey, Democrat. Now, the rules. Each candidate will be given a 3-minute opening statement. I will keep time. The opening statements need to stick to a strict 3-minute time limit. We'll alternate between incumbents and challengers for each seat on the Board of Education. Each candidate will receive 2 questions each from the Summerville News and WZQZ News. Their response will be 2 minutes. Follow-up questions may be asked by myself, Mr. Espy, or Mr. Holbrook for clarification. Follow-up answers will be 1 minute in length. And each candidate will be given a 2-minute closing statement that will be strictly enforced. And now, ladies and gentlemen, you've seen the signs, you've read the statements, and now hear their voices. We will begin with Mr. Larry Wiesner.
I'm Larry Wiesner, candidate for re-election for school board. Been on the school board since June 2012. I filled an unexpired term for Ron Williams that I ran on my own term, which I'm currently serving, a 4-year term, and I'm seeking re-election. Lifelong resident of Chattooga County, born in Chattooga County Hospital, December 1952. Gene McGinnis and I were born on the same day, but don't hold that against me. We might have been swapped at birth, but don't hold that against Scott Goodwin either. Education, graduate Chattooga County High School, went to Lyreland Elementary, graduated from high school in 1970. Married Roxy Light, she graduated in 1972 from CHS. We adopted a son. He graduated from Jamie. He graduated from Chattooga High School in 2013. He's currently serving the United States Marine Corps with his second hitch. He's sergeant. Lifelong resident, never moved, always lived here, didn't always work here. I worked with Piggly Wiggly and Lyreland, worked my way through high school and college, and I went to Red Food when Piggly Wiggly sold out. Worked for Red Food until they were purchased by Aho USA, which is Bilo. You know it as Bilo. We had a store here in Summerville. And until they sold out, and I went to work for Southern Family Markets, which was a city area over in Middle Tennessee. Still lived here, but commuted back and forth. They sold out, so that's been a story of my grocery career. Went to work with a group out of Miami, Florida. Did fresh flowers up the East Coast, sold to a chain, had 50 stores. I started in Greenville, South Carolina, and went to Baltimore. That was my territory, and that's where I retired. I retired at 55, got bored, got on the school board, hadn't been bored since. I think that's probably about 3 minutes. That's all the info they need.
Thank you, Mr. Wiesner. Next up, we'll have Mr. Brad Hayes.
Good evening. Thank you again for our local radio station and newspaper, Millican, for having us out this evening, and for all of you that made it to our forum. My name is Brad Hayes. I am the only child of Bobby and Sandra Williams Hayes. My mom was a 1961 graduate of Summerville High School, which happens to be the last year that they were Summerville High before becoming Chattooga High School. And I have been in education for 24 years. However, really since I was age 5, I've been in education, because first I was a student, kindergarten through 12th grade, then in college, and then knew what I wanted to be, never really changed my major, knew I wanted to be an educator. And so I had been in teaching, coaching, administration for 24 years. And if you want to know, why did I choose education? And it's real simple, because each year that passes, I realize more and more why I wanted to be an educator. And I know the fellow teachers in the room will know what this feels like. It's when I see former students, they come up to me and they share with me some of the things that we did, where we went. It may have been a field trip. I took a couple of seniors to Washington, D.C. I've been to Atlanta. But they share with me, the positive influence that I made on their life. And it thrills me to see how successful a lot of my students have become. A lot of them live in Chattooga County. And that's something I would really like to see more of, because I think it's a win-win situation for students and for our community. It's for our graduates to stay here in the county, to find a career, to find work and raise their family here in Chattooga County, because it is a great place to grow up and live. I am also a lifelong resident of Chattooga County. And so I'm able to run into students that I have worked with, because I've worked in a lot of counties here in this area. I go to Rome, I go to Calhoun or Lafayette or Trenton or Dalton, and I usually run into students that I have taught or I've worked with in the past. And I live here in Chattooga County, so what better thing to do than to continue to work in education, which is all I know, basically, and to work for students and the community as well, to make a difference in the lives of others. And I would greatly appreciate your listening tonight to all of our answers to the questions that are asked, and it is great to be here and be a candidate for the Chattooga County School Board.
Mr. Hayes. Next, we'll have Miss Alma Lewis.
Good evening. I am Alma Lewis. I'm the youngest of 5 children of Frank and Linda Lewis, who came to Chattooga County in the 40s, early 40s. They came to get a beginning, anticipating they would move later. Their roots got so deep they never left. They passed that on to me. My other brothers and sisters continued to go and come, but I stayed. When I left the University of Georgia, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. But 1 year later, Wim Bentley said everybody should teach school. So I applied, got a job at the old junior high. I immediately fell in love with the job, people there. It was a fascinating environment, and I think I learned more from the kids than they learned from me. But spending my time there, I moved on to administration. Spent 34 total years within the school system. And continually, I see former students and co-workers who have spent their time and given their effort and all this at Chattooga High School, North Summerville, the junior high, Summerville Elementary, all these schools, Laramie, Menlo, all of them carry out the same philosophy. I'm a strong supporter of education, always will be. I enjoy my work, want to see the continued progress that we've made within our school system. Look forward to continue building, not only with our students, but also our building program, which you know is taken off. And we have buildings and schools can't be beaten by anybody else in our area. So we're pleased with that fact. I've spent 8 years on the board. I'm asking for 4 more years to continue our growth and development. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we will have Mr. Sammy Ballard. Be loud and proud.
Good evening to you. I have a head cold tonight, so I'm not that clear in speaking, but I'm glad each one of you came out to for the forum, and I'm thankful for Mr. Holbrook and Jason for putting it on for us. Probably, I would guess 90% of you already know how you're going to vote, but I'm glad you came to listen to us anyway. It's good you could be out here. I'm again, like I guess just about everybody here is a lifelong resident of Chattooga County. I was a 1966 graduate at Chattooga High School, and then I guess it was 1971 I graduated from Georgia Tech. I had went there with a mechanical engineering degree, so that's many years ago. But anyway, after that, my brother and I have been in the construction industry for over 50 years. We're pretty well experienced in that. And we've done that our whole life. We've had our family's had a hardware in Menlo since 1954. We're pretty well established at that. To answer some of the questions that may be coming, people will probably be asking, well, what am I doing here? I'm not an educator. Why am I running for school board? But several reasons. One would just be curiosity. One would be thinking of ways that I might improve the education system through means that, not necessarily people are looking at, but I want to do things that help children and things that help people in their life that they have coming up, no matter what their occupation is going to be. No matter if they go to college, no matter if they go to work in the mill, they need a background that will help them. And not just, college prep is not the answer to everything, but it is for some kids. So again, I want to thank you for being here in the upcoming forum. I'll try to answer any questions that may be, that you may be interested in hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Mr. Eddie Massey. Last but certainly not least.
I'm also glad to see a pretty good crowd turned out for this forum. It would have been easy if you stayed home and it was raining. Except Summerville News and AM 1180. I also am a lifelong resident of Chattooga County. I was born July the 7th, 1957. I have been on the board since 2003. When my late father passed away. After some encouragement from local people, I was appointed. Then I had to run for the last 2 years of his unexpired term. And after that, I still hadn't had enough of punishment yet, so I qualified again to run. But it's my wife, former Jerry Bramley. We've been married 29 years. She and I operate a hardware in Menlo also, hardware and farm supply. Started it when I was 21 years old. I farmed all my life. I've been all over the county in fertilizer trucks, so I know the roads. And we had 3 children, Vanessa Lee, C.E., Vanessa graduated Chattooga High School, as I did in 1975. She graduated in 2012. Lee graduated in 2013. And our last son, he graduated in the class of 2018 last year. He's currently welding in Atlanta today. He probably won't make it in. But he learned his trade in the high school. To work for a good paid job. But I was raised to give back to the community. I've served on the ASCS committees here in this county. I've served on the FSA committee, Walker, Catoosa, Dade, and Whit. Walker, Catoosa, Dade, and Chattooga. Graduate leadership Chattooga. I mean, I can go on, but I'm proud of our schools. I'm proud of where our schools have came from, where we're at, where we're now, and the direction that we're going. And I appreciate y'all's time coming.
Thank you, sir. Try that a little bit. Can anybody out there, you can't hear it all, so it's not coming through here. So to fix that problem, we'll just all be loud and proud. Does anybody have a problem hearing me in the back? So see, it works.
Somebody unplugged.
Nailed it. Nailed it. All right. Now I'll be turning over to Mr. Jason and Mr. Jimmy, and they will be calling the candidates to come up here and answer your questions. And like I said, if there's a follow-up or needs clarification, I'll be happy to jump in on that. Okay. All right. We'll start it like that. And I will go ahead and call Miss Alma Lewis.
All right. Good evening. Just briefly, you don't have to go into a lot of details, but the Governor's Office of Student Achievement gives the Chattooga County School District a D grade. Explain why we have this grade.
Okay, these go purely on test scores. Of course, our students don't perform as ideally as we would like. And addressing this, we have a group effort going on, but that comes purely from test scores. Several years back, they attempted to reinvent the wheel on the scoring system, and a lot of it includes students that were never included before. So all inclusive testing. But no, our scores are not that good in those particular levels. And those are targeted grades. So next year it'll be a different group. It's going to be a different outcome.
Did that.
All right, we'll go ahead with the next question. In your opinion, what is the most difficult decision you've had to make, or the hardest vote that you had to cast while serving on the Chattooga Board of Education? And before you answer that, let me follow it up with this. Has that decision proven to be the right decision?
The years that we were forced to make cuts were all tough decisions. I'm talking about when we ended up outsourcing our janitorial people. That was tough. And we were getting permission to increase our class size to accommodate the students because we lost funding for other positions as teachers. That was tough. So part of that is what initially targeted altering our schedule. We want a different direction in an attempt to save money, to save positions. And I must say, we're not the only industry impacted by insurance companies upping fees on personnel, because there's nobody within our system that I know gets the value of their dollar for their insurance. And that's quite sad, and that tends to fall on the insurance people. But we've got a lot of outside motivating forces that force us to make cuts, and when it involves your personnel and the quality of your students and the fit that impacts you.
Thank you. We'll call another candidate.
Mr. Brad Hayes.
All right, Brad, I want to ask you the same question I asked a while ago. The Governor's Office of Student Achievement gives the Chattooga County School District a D grade. Explain why we have this grade.
Well, in looking at Chattooga County and then also really any county system, this goes back to really even elementary school. We have students that are in elementary school in any system, which would be Chattooga, that takes standardized tests. A lot of that looks at the 3rd grade through the 8th grade, which would cover elementary and middle school grades. There's a couple of important years, like the 3rd, 5th, and 8th, that you actually look at our students on reading grade level or above. And I think a lot of the work needs to come, of course, in those early years. So there's maybe been some lacking of some things at the early years. As a student grows older and moves into high school, you start looking at the attendance rate. You start looking at discipline. And you also continue to look at those milestone tests that they've started in 3rd grade all the way through high school. It could be an end of grade, which is elementary and middle, or it could be an end of course test that's in high school. So there's a lot of importance to looking at giving students enough seat time, whether or not they're diligent in attending school. That's been a battle that I faced all of my educational career, teaching and administration, is encouraging students to attend school, have a good attendance, and also discipline. You really have to work with students on discipline, because all of these things factor into the school climate, which is part of this grade. You have surveys, because you ask students, how are things going? And they complete surveys. You ask teachers, you ask parents. All of this is combined, and the state of Georgia has access to all county and city school systems, and they receive that grade. So we're all a part of trying to make sure this grade hopefully increases as the years go by, instead of staying the same or even going lower. And a D is not what we want to continue to have.
All right. Mr. Hayes, you've been involved in education for most of your adult life, really all of your adult life. When you see the Chattooga County school system, do you see a system that's headed in the right direction, or do you see a system that's not adequately meeting the educational needs of the students?
Oh, I would definitely say we are headed in the right direction. However, to continue to move forward, there are some things that I would like to bring out, hopefully as the evening goes on, that actually, it could be a personal thing, but a lot of it's professional. You know, I have been able to work in 5 other counties in this area. And there's some things that, you know, I know has worked in other schools, but there's not going to be another Chattooga or another Summerville middle or elementary school. But a lot of the schools that I may compare, even the scores that we just talked about in the first question, you know, how are we doing with other schools that have the same amount of kids, the same poverty level? You know, you can't really compare apples to oranges. You've got to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. But I feel like, you know, we are moving in the right direction, but even having a D on the state report card, there's more that we can do to make that better. And so I want to continue to support the students and the teachers because they are doing a great job. That's one of the reasons I'm running, is because I'm all for patting students and teachers on the back and encouragement. Because I've been there. I've been a student and I've been a teacher. And I will never forget what it was like to be a student and what it was like to be a teacher.
Brad, just with a follow-up, you say that you believe that the Chattooga County school system is headed in the right direction. What is something that the Chattooga County school system is doing right that you see?
What we're doing right is there's been, you know, it takes money, but there's been so many improvements in the Chattooga County system with schools, buildings, facilities, fields, gymnasiums. And that's something it's great to give to our students and our community, because I'm not against the way the old Summerville High School looked. Part of it's still over here. You know, you can see some of those buildings from years ago. And I had nothing against that Chattooga High School building that was there from 1965 until the new one was built. But, you know, in time, there are things that you have to do. And what we have given our students and our teachers and our community with facilities is outstanding. So that is an area I feel like we would continue to work toward, but I've always kind of compared it to this. With building in the county, you can't keep spending money or owing money or debt. It's kind of like when I was young, I would travel down I-75, and there would be sometimes construction when we'd be going to Florida. But it would stop. You know, construction would end at some point in time. But now it seems like there's always construction. So we have to kind of put a stop to that with spending.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sammy Ballard.
I've got the same question again that I asked. The Governor's Office of Student Achievement gives the Chattooga School District a D grade. Explain why we have this grade.
My explanation would be, as I think maybe Brad mentioned, that starting in elementary school, I don't think we have the right, whatever the right curriculum, the right tools, or whatever to teach the type of kids we have in this county. Trying to think, the kids are, they're given, from what I see from my grandkids, and this doesn't have anything to do with a county or anything, kids are being taught too much material even at a very early age. And I don't, and if you've got lower income poverty kids like this county, we're one of the poverty type county, they can't handle what the state and the federal government is trying to shove at them. It's just absolutely too much material, and I think they need to pull back a little. They need more help. I think that if some way you could get, you know, in which, you know, it's almost impossible to get more teachers per student, but that's what we need, and that's where the low grade comes from. It's just not from this, you know, necessarily from this county or whatever. It's a nationwide thing, I think.
Mr. Ballard, the local cost to the Chattooga County Board of Education for school employee insurance is expected to take a dramatic increase over the next several years. Would you propose cutting the budget or raising taxes to fund the additional expense?
On the health insurance for the employees. Basically, you know, teachers signed up, when they signed up, that was part of their package deal, is the health insurance. I don't think you can just say, well, you can pay it yourself. I've had to pay health insurance for a lot of years. I know it's expensive. But as far as raising taxes, you may have to do that, but you can also, cut costs on other things like, I've noticed on the amount of construction we've done lately, being a contractor, some of the cost of that could have been cut. And you can, $1 million here and $1 million there, you could save enough for insurance.
The schools are being built with a special local option sales tax,
Correct.
but you wouldn't be able to use that money for health insurance.
No, the original 1 cent tax can be used, but the latter 1 cent tax can't be used for that. It's strictly for buildings. And if we had to, if it comes to that, you may need to eliminate the building tax and raise the property tax again to pay for that if you had to. But like I say, I don't think it should be a free ride for all the school teachers and other people that has to pay the full cost of health insurance. But their package was, when they signed up to teach, was that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Eddie Massey.
I'm gonna ask you the same question. We gotta dig it. Why? Explain this.
Figured if you would. That grade is given by the state. It is what it is. We're not proud of that grade or score. Over the years, different criteria on the test, on the scoring of it. We used to have the CRCT test, CCRPI now. A lot of you may not be aware, but at this time, the State Board of Education in the state of Georgia, there's 3 school systems that's on the pilot program. The State Board approved it. What they're actually looking at is a different, it may replace the milestones in the CCRPI, the way they score the students on the test. May replace it. Systems all over the state have had to deal with different tests and the way they scored them. In my opinion, we need to stay with something long enough to have the outcome, because it takes so much. You have to change in one direction to move in the next direction. I don't like teaching at the test, but that's what about all the systems the state of Georgia does. Going back, I agree with Mr. Bowers. If a student has not had the opportunity to be in some type of a pre-K setting, when they get in kindergarten, most of them's behind. I don't care if it's public pre-K setting or a private. You can see it. I have a granddaughter right back here sitting in the office. It's amazing to me how much they learn in the pre-K setting. But families involved too. We need strong family support for our students and students. Curriculum set by the state. We as board members have to abide by the state regulations. We may not personally agree with all the curriculum that's in place. It's mandated by the state. We have to abide. But I think we are headed in the direction to correct some of these deficiencies that have been identified with some of these tests. And a lot of data being used in Chattooga County school system. And that data is very important. Leroy Massey, 5th grade. We knew we had an issue up there, math and reading. In this last budget, there's an academic coach that's try to help the teachers, support the teachers. The success team, that's their job. They try to help and support all the teachers.
Eddie, stay up here, I got a question. A lot has been made, and we've heard a lot in the news over the past several months about the state fully funding QBE. In your opinion, do you think the state is living up to those reports, that they're fully funding education for the first time in years?
No. Definitely.
Real quick, because this is when I'd like to jump in real fast. QBE stands for your quality basic education. And what that is that's the amount of money that you get from the state each year. And so this is the first year. What he's mentioning is, even with arbitrary cuts and things, this is the first year in the past 8 years, possibly 10 years, since I know at least 2010, that the state is officially saying that schools are fully funded for their share. So what that means is that this upcoming year, Chattooga County schools have slowly in the last few years grown their QBE from, let's say in 2016 it was 15 million, 2017 it was 16.6 million, 2018, 2017, sorry, 2015, 16.6, 18, and then this year it's $18.7 million is what you're getting from the state. But that is not what you get from local and county. Was that good? Was that right?
I think I can remember. So, I said no, and I said that real fast. QBE was implemented during the 80s. Really not very many adjustments to the QBE form. Technology at that time, what we need. School buses, those increased, bus costs are just skyrocketing. Most of them know what you paid for the first car you bought, and know what you paid for one now. There's nowhere near close. But at least since 2004 to 2018, QBE, former Chattooga County school systems received was less $16,200,000. That's pretty big to me. But then you go back and look, I think Caleb mentioned, from 2010 to 2015, we received about $2 million less each year from the state. So, in my eyes, it's not fully funded. They added $700,000 more dollars to this current budget that we were working with. And the year before, that was all it was, $700,000. TRS, teacher retirement, that Chattooga County has to send the state, is nearly 21% now. And that's going to take $850,000 of your money that we're sending to the state. Now, they said they give us $700,000 more dollars. But if we're sending $850 down there, we didn't get nothing there. That's the way I look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Larry Wiesner.
I just want to remind all the candidates, some of the people on, watching on live stream, they can't hear you really well, so make sure to speak up really loud if you can, with the people online.
Bend down, talking in the mic, right?
Go for it, yeah. I'm going to ask you the same question. We've got a D, from the governor's office, committee. Explain why we got this grade.
I'm glad you asked that question. Let me give you a little history. Let me frame this and give the audience some perspective here. Back in 2010, we had a grade of F. We were on a 5-day school week. I see some teachers doing this, shaking their heads. They know what I'm talking about. Got the latest preliminary report right here from the test scores. Takes a little time to interpret this, but I'll read you some, and then we'll discuss this thing a little bit. This year's, which we don't have the totals for yet, and we're talking about last year's test scores. We're talking about 2017 scores that rolled up to a D. Last year we had 11.66% increase. The state had a 1.6 or 1.4, I forget. But we beat the state average by 10% last year. Pretty big gains. This year we don't have our totals yet. I went to the office this morning and asked Jimmy and Jared. I said, "You got those test score totals?" They said, "No, they'll be in sometime in October, closer probably to November. It depends on the state." But through my with my calculator and my scientific Chattooga County education, I think we're closing in on a C. It looks pretty good. Now, you say, how do you know that? Well, let me put on my peepers here and I'll read these to you. Come on in, Julia. We're talking about test scores. 19 out of 24 categories, we scored well in threes and fours. In twos and threes, and I know this don't make a whole lot of sense to you if you don't deal with this every day, but in twos and threes, we scored 20 out of 24. So that gives you 39 out of 48 where we did well. We have some opportunities, as Eddie referred to, at particular one school, and it's mostly reading and math that we were on Massey in grades 5th grade. That's where the opportunities lie. But I'll give you this example. You say, "Oh, this 4-day week is killing us." Well, let me give you an example. When you go to the store and you come out and you got a flat tire, you got a tire problem. And when you go to the store and you come out and every car on the lot's got a flat tire, you got a parking lot problem. Well, we don't have a parking lot problem. We got a tire problem. We have a few little opportunities. We do at every group. If anybody wants to look at this, I'll hang around after the meeting. You can look at it. But there's opportunities on every one. And show me a system in the state of Georgia that does not have opportunities. And I will remind you one more time, we came from the pits with an F. We have brought it to a D, almost a C, and I believe this year we'll hit the C threshold. So we're on trend, and that's what we as board members look for. We look at everything, but we look for positive trends. That's what we want to see. So.
I'm going to pop in on a follow-up real quick. Mr. Wiesner, we've read reports, a lot of information's out on that 20 out of 24 test scores are up this year. In 2017, they were up from, or 2018 scores were up from 2017. But 20 out of 24 of those test scores do not meet state average. What is the plan in place, since you brought up scores and the grade D, what is the plan in place to get those scores to not only state average, but to exceed state average.
Okay, we have a team that we call the success team. They're 4 highly qualified ladies who do a phenomenal job. 2 of them, we were principals, Principal Lyerly, Principal Menlo, and then 2 other ladies that are highly qualified. And what they do, they go in and work with teachers and assist teachers. And by the way, these people are 100% paid for by federal funds. They don't cost us a dime. If we had to pay them, the 4 salaries would amount to somewhere in the neighborhood of $450,000. And they do very good work. They work very diligently. They go in and teach, and basically they go in and teach, coach, and train. And that we'll get into more of their, hopefully more of their job responsibilities. They've already got a hold of this report. They're waiting at the door on it when it comes out. They want to know where we were deficient, what schools, what grades. They put a plan together and they go attack it. They don't attack the person, they attack the problem. And they get very, very, very good results.
All right, I got a question for you. Leroy Massey Elementary School is the lowest performing school in the system. It's also the fastest growing school in the system. What needs to be done at Leroy Massey Elementary School to be sure that education and test scores improve and that the county school system is able to keep up with the growth?
I partially just answered that. The success team will spend more time. If we need to expand the success team, I'll be a proponent for that. If they need more manpower, or in their case, woman power, I'll be glad to support that. And that's our best plan of attack for low test scores and deficiencies in any school and any area, especially the 4 core areas.
More specifically, outside of the test, what you're going to do about the test scores, what about the growth at the school itself, the actual number of kids that are going?
We just added 12 rooms, and we've actually got we have a high number of mentally challenged young people in our school system, elementary school system, and we have 300 and some odd kids that need special attention. And we have a special department at Leroy Massey. And we have fixed to designate a room that these children, when they do, and some of them are autistic children, and some of them act out, and that's just the nature of an autistic child. That happens. We've got a special room and special equipment for them, and one of my pet projects for this coming year is to support that program for challenged children, because the numbers are so large. And then on top of the challenged children, we've got 200 homeless children in this county. The state classifies them as homeless. No, they're not out here living under a bush, but they don't have mom and dad at home either. I know a little bit about homelessness. My wife managed a homeless shelter here for 10 years. I would never have believed how much homelessness we got in Chattooga County. We've got a major problem in homelessness, but the biggest problem our school system faces, and Shane Tucker said it best, he was teacher of the year before last, and in his interview with the Summerville News, he said, if I could wish one thing into existence, he said, we could just have one thing to change, he said, every teacher would agree with me, give me parental involvement. Well, first of all, you got to have the parents in the home. And then after that, we'll get them involved with the children. If you want to fix a problem, parental involvement is the key. And then we'll do our part. Of course, we're going to do our part anyway. We're not going to shirk our responsibility. But parental involvement, according to everyone you talk to, is the key to turning any school system. Did you hear me back there? Did you hear back there now?
You're right here, I don't know about Dr. Houston has made it to us. She had a class tonight. So I'm going to allow her to do her 3-minute introduction, and then we will proceed with questions.
So good evening. Thank you for letting me come in late. I had to teach tonight. I'm Dr. Houston, and I've taught for been in public schools for about 25 years and currently teach in a teacher preparation program. I am married, of course live in the county. I've lived in the county for most of my adult life. I'm a Chattooga graduate. My husband and I, we have 2 boys. We have 3 grandchildren. 2 of our grandchildren attend Chattooga County schools. One is just 18 months old. I've just a passion for teaching and a passion for young children, and so I threw my hat in the ring, and I would really like to see our school systems be those top-notch school systems.
I want to ask you the same question I've asked all of them. The Governor's Office of Student Achievement gives the Chattooga School District a D grade. Explain why we have this grade.
One of the things, well, there are a number of factors that are involved in a school system in the grading process, but one is achievement. Our academic achievement is poor. When we look at our scores, when we look at our reading scores, especially in our 3rd and 5th graders, we know how important reading is. Our students are scoring way below the level that they should. We only have about, in 5th grade, we have about 50% of our children that are not on grade level in reading. And that's a concern for me. As an educator, as a parent, as a grandparent in this county, I'd like to see that change. But there are a number of factors of why. Are you asking for, like, we have poverty rates or things like that, or?
I'm just leaving it open to.
Okay.
You've gone on record saying that Chattooga County spends more than other counties on transportation despite the 4-day school week. And,
Yes.
I believe that's what you said on your Facebook page. What data did you use to support that opinion?
I used, what I did was looked at the Georgia Department of Education provides both revenue and expenditure reports. And I was curious when I started looking at the 4 versus 5-day issue. One of the things that we heard is that we're saving money. And you can't argue with saving money, but we heard that we're saving money in the area of transportation. And I just looked at the transportation costs. It is, you can look at the Georgia Department of Education's website, and you pull down their expenditures, and you look at, it will tell you per student what we're spending. And we're actually spending more per student than all the surrounding counties in North Georgia, except for Walker County, and they're all on 5 days.
Was that true before the 4-day school week as well?
I went back and looked as far as 2009. In 2009, we were probably on par with other school systems. And that's when we were on a 5-day week.
So, will you speak up just a little? They can't hear you on the live stream.
Okay, sorry.
So what would you do to address that issue? I mean, if we're already spending more than other counties on a 4-day school week, that means that cost is going to increase if we went to a 5-day school week.
I think that would have to be something you'd have to look at in the budget. I wonder why, I haven't had an answer to the question, why are we spending more per student than other surrounding areas if we should be saving money in that area? So I think it's something we'd have to look at the budget and find out why.
Thank you.
We'll mix it up here. We'll start with Mr. Brad Hayes.
All right. Why does Trine outperform Chattooga in education a lot of times? What can we learn from them?
Well, I think it goes both ways. Trine can learn from Chattooga many things. Chattooga can learn from Trine many things. What would be ideal is, if we could put aside all the bickering, the fighting that has always been in place, even before I was born. and we could work together for the betterment of every student that lives in Chattooga County. This is a problem oftentimes in all counties. There's 2 high schools in Walker County. There's not real good feelings toward the Chickamauga City School, which all 3 are in the same county. It happens in Floyd County. Floyd County schools, there's several high schools, but there's a Rome City. There's always that fight and that bickering, but I would like to see the fight and the bickering come into something that's more positive. I really do believe that academically we could both learn from each other. If there was even some type of a career academy, CTAE continuing to do what they're doing, Tryon desperately needs CTAE. Chattooga is outstanding with what they're doing in the CTAE program. Tryon needs that help. And so if you could call in a Georgia Northwestern Technical College, GNTC, we could do what a lot of the other counties are doing in the area. We could have a possible program taught at Floyd or Walker GNTC where Chattooga students are bused there, Tryon students are bused there. And it's all about picking up possibilities for students to find a career. And I think we need to work on making things more positive. Even sports. There's nothing wrong with Chattooga and Tryon playing against each other in all sports. It's a money maker. We make money. If we're short on our budget and we need money, now, money has to be spent in certain areas, just like you mentioned, the SPLOST. You can't just spend SPLOST money on health care. I know you can't spend money at the football gate, the basketball gate, on just anything, but money is money, and we can make more money. Yes.
You know, I've been in both places here. I've been up there answering the questions and been sitting here and asking the questions. And sometimes you have to ask difficult questions, but I want you to hear the whole question when I ask this. You've already given your side of the story about a suspension to your teaching license. So the question is not about the details of that. But you said that you learned from that experience. Will you explain what you learned and how those lessons would apply if you're elected?
Yeah. I learned, first of all, you can't trust everybody. I was in a situation where I had been the assistant principal at a school, and when my family was traveling on vacation, I learned that I had been hired as the principal of that school. So I had a task before me, first of all, my first ever principal's job. And I know now, looking back on that situation, there were people that were probably a little bit above me. I would say they were my bosses. They didn't tell me everything I really needed to know, but you can't blame them because that's like a teacher going into a classroom for the first time. You learn when you get in that situation yourself. People can't tell you everything. Well, I learned a lot my first year as a principal. I learned even more the second year and then finally the third year. But I learned you can't trust everybody. And what happened to me is in that first year, that first week that I was on the job, I had to have a teacher committee formed to hire an assistant principal and to hire an instructional coach in that school. And so what happened was we all agreed on 3 candidates. And the first candidate that I wanted to hire as my assistant principal, that's somebody you got to work closely with. There was a veteran principal in the county that wanted that same candidate for her assistant principal. Well, I'm new, and I was told this at least by someone at the central level. Give that veteran principal what she wants. You're just starting. Okay. So I don't really get who I wanted or who the committee picked. The second candidate was a teacher that was at the school that we were hiring. There was some problems the superintendent had with that particular teacher. We were not going to get that candidate approved at the central level. So we had to go with our third choice. And the mistake that I made as an educator through all of the stuff that come out was I hired the wrong person to be who I thought was my co-leader working side by side with me.
Well,
It's unfortunate.
since the time's up on that question, let me ask a follow-up question on that.
Okay.
I think you explained your side of that, but how would you apply the lessons that you learned from that to being a Board of Education member for Chattooga County?
We all make mistakes and no one is perfect. And I think we need to teach our students and our children, myself, because see, I have 2 boys, and I had to explain to my 2 sons, what really happened, because they were young when this happened. They didn't really understand. They knew these people that I could say kind of stabbed me in the back, but you got to explain that to younger children, which was my children and students that I had. And I learned from that we learn from different people in our life, and some of them are our own bosses. We learn what to do if we get in a situation of authority or power, but we also learn what not to do. And I have learned, and I would like to share it with every educator, every fellow board member, because it can happen to any of us. What you have to really be careful of and watch, and you can learn not to do what others have done.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Alma Lewis. Alma Lewis.
All right, I want to ask you the same question. Why does Trine outperform Chattooga in education in a lot of ways? What can we learn from them?
Well, you said you don't want to compare apples and oranges. They're still 2 different situations, but yet they're alike too. We continue to work on what we see as our pressing need. If our clientele a little different from what actually things trying. In fact, if you recall, your county students, Trine City would be a lot smaller. But we both do address the same issues. We follow the same related curriculum. So we keep digging for the little guy that we've got, trying to make him more successful. It would be great if we had the same success rate that they show. It hasn't happened yet.
Did you summarize what she's saying?
Yeah, we cannot hear a word she's saying. Hand her one of those handheld mics.
It's his fault. It's Caleb's fault.
There you go.
See that? When you're yelling at me, I can hear it.
Go ahead and just summarize real quickly what you just said so they can hear that.
We continue to address the same issues as Trine City. Chattooga addresses the same issues. We're tested on the same foundation. We still don't have our students necessarily on the same beginning as Trine City does. But we're working on that. We're going to close the gap.
Okay, for my second question for you, you've served in multiple positions in education, probably about all the positions in education. I mean, you've driven a bus, you've been in school administration, you've taught in the classroom. How important is it for Chattooga County schools to attract and retain good teachers? And what do you think would deter good teachers from wanting to teach in the Chattooga County school system?
Anybody dedicated to education will go for a challenge. If every student you had was an A student, you would get there. Your most rewarding times in education are meeting the needs of those students
who aren't as equipped. It's just like if you're gonna build a house, yes, you want the best possible construction group you can get to come out and build your house. But with a lot of coaching and patting on the back, you can get a good job from somebody else. So we continue to work at what we've got. Being in education, you love it or you don't. And if your heart is not with your students, you don't need to be there.
I have a follow-up.
Just one.
Just one. Can I ask a
You
thousand?
pick the mic off him.
In low-income areas, parental involvement is traditionally low, at times non-existent. So what can be done when we talk about test scores and we talk about, he said that trines are traditionally higher than ours. What can be done to basically combat this trend or to hit it head on that we have lower parental involvement in Chattooga County school system than does the trine school system?
Okay. Every school should continue to try to open that door. I love the reading nights. They have the parents coming up, sitting and reading with their children. You continue to push for some kind of PTO organization. We have those parent coordinators in place working to try to fill this bill. So you keep working on what successes you got in your games. You provide more opportunities for those parents to come in. That's not a negative situation.
Mr. Eddie Massey.
I want to ask you a different question. Currently, we have a $1.2 million deficit. Is that correct? Yes or no? On your budget?
$2 million.
1.2. That's not correct. And you cut property taxes also? You didn't dip into your fund balance this year?
The fund balance, yes, but I mean, how do you get, what's your question?
All right, your revenues versus expenditures is you've got a deficit of $1.2 million.
In the current budget.
Right, correct. Why, if you got a deficit, why did you cut property taxes? Is that a good idea?
Sure. You got to understand where the deficit, if you call it that was the fund balance that was set aside years ago to be used for, well, let's go back to, a few years ago. The state doesn't fund money based on anticipated growth. So, go back to high school, go back to the ordination issue. At the time that was all put in place, if you just built what we would have earned from the state to begin with, would have done had to build more rooms. So some of that money that had been put aside for purposes like that was planned to be put to build an extra room or two at Wheeler National. When the state came back and refigured it on the LTE count, we earned more money from the state. So some of that reserve money that you're talking about, really the budget, about $4.5 million is what the 12.63 million money should take. Roughly $4.5 million. Then you take your state money, you take your federal money. The total budget is 27 million, a little over 27 million. But that's including some local money that can be spent on buildings and equipment or whatever the board determines.
You're the only, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're the only current board member who was serving at the time of the change from the 4-day week to the 5-day week, is that correct?
Correct.
When the change was implemented, it was discussed and presented to the public as a temporary measure. Not to say that that's what everybody thought, but it was presented that way by the superintendent at the time. At what point did the thinking change to make the 4-day school week permanent? And what were the reasons behind it?
The 4-day school week has never been made permanent. We've always got that option to go back to a 5-day. But the current state of the Chattooga County school system, the 4-day week is working. 4-day schedule is working. I see no reason to go back to a 5-day schedule at this time. That's not to say that 2-3 years down the road, you might not consider going back to that. But right now, we're making progress. At that time, local money, we was looking for about $1.5 million. That would have been local taxpayer money. Teachers got rifted. We left the Pimble school. Most of those teachers up there were in the rift. Administrators was rifted. That was when the academy, or the crossroad was at Pimble, I said Trine, I'm sorry, was moved to the high school. That was one portion. Millage rates were increased. And some of the teachers that were rifted back during that time, later on, due to the savings of the 4-day schedule, were put back in place. The state gave waivers to the majority of the systems over the state of Georgia at that time for larger class size. Today, the average class size in the Chattooga County school system, talking about from pre-K to 12, is 20.2. A lot of teachers that retired back there have been replaced that was not replaced back there.
Thank you.
I'm jumping in a little more now. On one of the signs that we've seen says we're in the best financial situation ever. Is it fair to say that we also have more bond debt today than we've ever had?
Bond debt. Your high school will be paid off in about 3 more payments, and I think people should be proud of that, very proud. I don't know of a system in the state, Mr. Millican, that probably doesn't have a bond. If there is, I'm not aware of one. That's nothing, just, any system will not have a bond. I believe our bond indebtedness is about $12 million. QZAB, which is, that's interest-free, the QZAB portion, I believe it's about $1 million and a little over $1 million. If we didn't have a bond indebtedness, we wouldn't have new facilities.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sammy Bowles.
As they mentioned, they said that we have all kinds of new schools and buildings and fields, and a lot of that has been funded with a 1% sales tax. Since we've already got all these new schools and buildings and stuff, do you think it's time that we cut out that tax? Since we have all these new facilities, what's your opinion?
That's a lot of tax that that equals 2% when you count the other one. And I think the voters, I only have one opinion. The voters are the ones that know if they can afford the tax or not. In my opinion, if we've got enough buildings, we could stop it temporarily. That's strictly my opinion, but that's a voter thing.
You have said that, I believe you have said that you're in favor of going back to the 5-day school week.
That is correct.
If we had gone back to the 5-day school week, would the Board of Education been able to roll the millage rate back as they have done over the past 2 to 3 years?
I have no idea about that. The administration has told me that it would cost about additional $700,000 per year to go to the 5-day week. Right now, we're paying, that'd be like $6.5 million per day per year on the school. So if we could go back and with the $700,000 doesn't seem like a lot for an additional day if the county has the money. And we seem to be, he has, up until a couple of months ago, he had like $5.5 million in the bank account. So, and with that said, he could have run for 5 days for like 8 years. And then went back to 4 days if you went broke again. But I think the kids need the repetition of 5 days.
And that was going to be my follow-up question. Put the money aside. Let's not talk about the money. Why do you think it's important to have a 5-day school?
As I said, I had a pamphlet out, and I think the 5 days, the quality of life of the elementary kids is decreased on these long hours. There are kids that get on the bus at 6:15, 5-year-old kids, and they get off the bus at 5 o'clock. And as I say, I'm concerned about their quality of life, but also the repetition of being in school 5 days, where now they're out 3 days, and only 4 days they don't get enough repetition. That's my theory of that.
Thank you.
Dr. Houston.
I want to ask you a different question here. With the reduced number of days that kids are going to school, which is a 4-day schedule, when they have snow days and when they have field trips, does this hurt the time that the kids are getting educated?
You're talking about on a 4-day week when they have snow, well, that would impact. First off, I want to address that as separate questions. One, the idea of field trips. Being an elementary school teacher, I cannot tell you how valuable a field trip is for students. So I'm a great supporter of students being able to go places, to experience different things. I think that adds to the education of the child if they're well thought out field trips. So I think the answer to that would be no. Snow days are usually made up. So if they miss because of snow, they would make that up.
I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Mr. Ballard, to get your take on it. the local cost, this was the question I asked you first, the local cost to the Chattooga County Board of Education for school employee insurance is expected to take a dramatic increase over the next several years. Would you propose cutting the budget to fund that, finding the money in the current budget, or would you be in favor of raising taxes to support that?
As a taxpayer, my first question is, knowing that we're facing those financial challenges, why did we cut the millage rate? That's my first question. I'm very concerned about that because it's easier not to cut, to leave that money in the budget to prepare for those financial challenges. I would be probably most in favor of, first looking at the current budget that we have, if there's any room that we can meet those financial challenges, but if not, we may look at a tax increase. And I am a taxpayer in Chattooga County, and as a taxpayer, I don't want that, but I think we have to be, your school board is in charge of the well-being of the children in the county, and we cannot be penny wise and pound foolish. So for me, paying $100 extra in taxes in a year it's more important for me to pay that money and see our children be well educated than to continue to cut taxes for taxpayers.
You have mentioned attendance as being an issue in Chattooga County schools. Do you feel that this would be combated by going back to a 5-day week, or how do you approach that problem in a 4-day school?
One of the reasons that I looked at attendance, again, we were hearing that our attendance rates were better on a 4-day, and so when I started to look at attendance, the state reports 3 categories of attendance, and one is 0 days missed to, I think it's 5 or 6 days, and then 6 days to about 10 days, and then it goes all the way to 15 plus days. Our category of students, the students that are missing more than 15 days in our 4-day week has increased over time from 10% of our students to nearly 18% of our students. However, saying that, we can't say that it's a cause and effect. We can't say because of the 4-day week that our students are missing more days. But we can say that it has a greater impact on what they're doing in school. They're missing more days. That's something that I think whether we're on a 4-day or 5-day, we have to look at reasons why these students are missing so much, and we have to go back and the leadership has to put a value on school attendance and being in school.
Mr. Larry Weasley.
The number of students enrolled at Chattooga Academy has about doubled in recent years from what it used to be. Can you explain the dramatic increase in the number of students enrolled, and how does that reflect in increased graduation rates for the school system?
Well, we reached out to that group of students, and we graduated 57 in this last graduating class that came through Chattooga Academy. That's not what was reported online, but in our total of graduates, we have been working with these students. We have actually went out and sought out these students. We have made a diligent effort to find them, recruit them back in, and get them in a system that works for them. A lot of these students have to help out at home. They have to work. They have to work jobs. Some of them get in trouble. They got a baby on the way. I mean, there's all kinds of circumstances. And you name it, it's out there. We work with our schedule, and we have been very successful. Mr. Barry Peppers and Mr. Jeff Martin attended a national conference in Dallas, Texas. They were invited because of the success of our alternative school, Chattooga Academy. and the success they had. And then they came right back, and the Secretary or Superintendent of Education, Richard Woods in Atlanta, had an audience with them in his office and to share best practices and what we're doing. We are getting national recognition, we're getting state recognition. Our Chattooga Academy is a resounding success because these are kids that basically would have fallen through the cracks and everybody else would have given up on them.
I've got two things I'd like you to kind of address if you can.
Sure.
One is talking about the deficit. Y'all passed a budget that had a deficit that you're going to dip into your fund balance.
Sure, got it right here. Be glad to talk to you about it.
But at the same time, you reduced property taxes. Is that why?
Just this morning, yes, we did. I'll tell you why. Just this morning, I had a meeting with the superintendent about 7:30. I'm in his office about once or twice a week. He and I communicate on a regular basis. This is the budget right here, the official budget. This is what we operate off of this coming year, 18-19. We have estimated revenue of $25,728,485. We have estimated expenditures of $27,005,796.32. The deficit he's talking about is we're spending $1,277,311.32 more than we took in, supposedly. And our fund balance in the bank right now, I checked it. We got our reports this morning for Thursday night's meeting. As of today, we have $3,401,883 in the bank, with $2 million set aside for special projects. So that brings us up to $5,401,883, basically in the checking account, if you want to put it that way. It's available to spend. We've got some projects coming up, and I'll briefly run through them. We've got to repave the parking lot at middle school. It's 30 years old. We've got to put a new roof on it and fix the one we got. We've got to put some lights on the baseball field before they fall over and kill somebody. Look at the poles down there, they're bad. Then we've got to put an awning on the back of the CTAE department so we can weld, we can do automotive mechanics, and we can do woodworking. We can build trusses out there. The reason we're doing that now, we didn't let the contractor do it because we're trying to save the taxpayers about $250,000. By doing it ourselves and getting a bid from an independent contractor, we have been able to negotiate a much better rate than we did with the contractor who built the school. Although we did cut $9 million out of that high school with that contractor. So now to go back to your question and answer the other part of it. We knew this going in. We're cutting $1.2 million out of operating expenses this year. And on top of that, we gave you a 1% millage rate decrease this year on your taxes. Now, our tax commissioner was nice enough to publish us some information from her office. We've saved you on millage rate savings over the years, 6 years in a row. We've cut millage rate, saved you over $1 million on your property taxes. I am a property taxpayer too. And to go back to the 5 days, it's going to cost me in the neighborhood of $300 more if they max out the millage rate. So if you go back from 4 days where we are now to 5, that answers your question. We're taking $1,277,000 out of operations this year. We had that discussion this morning, and he's working on it as we speak.
All right, we're going to do closing statements. Let's try to keep them to a minute, minute and a half, if at all possible. We're already running behind on time. So first, I would like to call up Mr. Sammy Ballard.
Mine shouldn't take a minute and a half, so it should be less than that. But anyway, I thank you for listening to us tonight. I appreciate each one of you here. As you probably see from every candidate here, being a school board member is about money management. Basically, the whole thing is money management. The teaching is left to the teachers. And that's And as I mentioned a while ago, one of the things I tend toward is the 5-day school week. There's pros and cons both ways. I've read every article on the computer I could find about 4 days versus 5 days, which would be the best. And there's pros and cons for everyone. It's just a matter of choice. Adults like the 4-day, I know that. But anyway, I appreciate your consideration in the upcoming election. Thank you.
Mr. Eddie Massey.
Again, I'd like to thank y'all for the opportunity of putting this forum on. Thank everybody in the crowd for attending. Hopefully some of this information has been beneficial to some of you. I am Eddie Massey. My name will be on the ballot in November. I would appreciate your vote and your support. And this election shouldn't be about Republican versus Democrat. It shouldn't be about 4-day schedule versus 5-day schedule. It should be about how can we best educate our children of Chattooga County at this time. Like I said, I am for the 4-day schedule at this time. That doesn't mean it's written in stone down the road. But at this time, I do feel like that the 4-day schedule is beneficial to all the students in the Chattooga County school system. We have a top-notch, a lot of people still call it vocational program, CTAE program. Some of those students work on Mondays now. Jobs for Georgia graduates. The teacher that teaches that specific class or that program. 100% graduation rate from those students. And I don't remember the amount of money that they earn now, but it was like $130-something thousand that those students earn. They come from disadvantaged families and everything. Appreciate your vote and your support.
So you don't request any favor. I think I mean. But all right. Next we'll have Mr. Brad Hayes.
I agree with what Mr. Massey said. Really, when I qualified in March to run for the school board, in my mind, it was going to be what's best for our students, what's best for our teachers. And somebody said to me early, oh, it's going to be about that 4-day or 5-day. And I thought, that's ridiculous. You know, it's not a calendar that allowed the students and teachers to do what they've already been doing, which is some very good things. It's the success of students and of teachers. And, you know, I'm here to pat them on the back and say, it's not because they went to a 4-day week schedule that you've been seeing success. It's time to tell the students to their face, it's you. Teachers, it's you. It's your job. It's your work. It's what you've been doing. And all in education, when I was growing up and all through the years, it's always been what students and teachers can do together. And I think it's real sad that it's come to the point where we have to say it's the 4-day or the 5-day. It's time to give the students and teachers the credit that they deserve, and the administration, and the community. So I am Brad Hayes, and early voting has already started. I hope we have a record turnout, because being an old government teacher myself, you know, you encourage people to register to vote, number one, and then go vote. And now we have early voting. We have Saturday, October 27th, you'll be able to vote. So I encourage you all to please vote, and remember me, Brad Hayes, when you do vote.
Ms. Alma Lewis.
A lot of different topics have been covered tonight by all the folks on the dais over here. Please keep in mind that you're voting for what you think is going to work best for your students and your county. I've served 8 years, I'm asking for 4 more. I want to see the growth continue. I know we're on the right path, and we want to continue that. Your vote would be appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. Larry Weisman.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you, guys. The quality of the questions is good, very good, thank you. And I'm probably the most politically incorrect one in our group, so fixing to tell you what the 5 day will look like 3 years down the road. I just told you about how much money we had in the bank. 3.5 years from now, you won't have any. You'll be broke. You'll be doing tax anticipation notes. You'll be raising millage rate. Every bad thing that could happen will happen. I mean, we'll be right back where we were. We'll be setting education back 10 years. You go 5 days a week, force that on the current superintendent, he'll be gone. He's probably the cheapest paid superintendent in Northwest Georgia. They always want to compare our school system to every other school system. The guy in Cartersville makes about $50,000 a year more than our guy does. And our guy refuses every raise we try to give him. He's in it for the kids. He's in it for the schools. He's not in it for the money. And then part of his staff, of course, will be gone. The success team will be gone. They're all tenured. You'll have to pay them a year's salary and benefits. That's another $600,000. Where are you going to come up with that? So that's kind of the complexion of how things will look on a 4 day versus a 5 day. We're on a good trend. Like I said, we're government. We look at trend lines. I look at trends my whole career. As a district manager, I managed a $3 million budget every week. I supervised 2,700 people. This is nothing new to me. I like the numbers. I like to work with numbers. I know how to use a calculator, and I've got a good pen. And this thing, you'll be broke in 3.5 years. You'll be without leadership. You got a good leader, strong leader, 29-year Marine man. They teach leadership. He's a good leader. And he's been a one-man culture change for this county and the county school system. Every kid in this school knows who he is. When I was in school, you know how many times I saw a superintendent? 3 times in 12 years. If he hadn't been my neighbor, I wouldn't have known who he was. People just stayed in their office. They didn't go to school. They get out and visit school like they do now. But he's a one-man culture change. He won't be here anymore. That's what your school system will look like. I don't want to preach gloom and doom to you. I'm just telling you, that's where you're going on a 5 day week. Am I a proponent for the 4? I am, as long as we can make it work. If we can't make it work, let's do a 5. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and do 6. And we'll produce Rhodes Scholars by the dozens on 6 days. Okay? We run our campaign on integrity. We run our campaign on honesty. We run the campaign on truthfulness. We run our campaign on experience and strong leadership and no politics. That's what we're about. We can agree on campaign signs. We don't have any disagreement in our camp over campaign signs. We know what we are. We know what we stand for. We know where we are. We know where we're going. So we appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Dr. Julia Houston.
I just wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight. I think that despite where we might fall on whether 4 or 5 days or who should be in leadership, I think we could all agree that we all have the best interests of our students at heart. No one would have been here tonight if they didn't care about the kids. And that's one thing our school board, the first primary responsibility is the academic achievement of the students in the county, and that's something that I will focus on if you choose to elect me to the board. So I just want to thank you very much for coming, and thank you for your consideration.
I'd like to thank all the candidates for being here, and I think nobody got a fist fight or yelled or screamed yet, so we still, if anybody wants to do that, wait till after we're done. But I'd like to thank the Summerville News and WZQZ News for putting this on for us. I'd like to thank everyone for coming, listening, and watching. And remember that early voting did start yesterday, so that will continue throughout the month. And then Election Day is Tuesday, November the 6th. So make sure you get out and vote. Get your sticker. Take a picture of it. Put it on Facebook so everybody knows you voted. Because you didn't really vote if you don't do that. So thank you guys, and I hope you guys have a safe and careful drive home.